Okay, thank you. Okay, thank you very much. Regarding a question from Sandeep, is the training is based on 10.1? No, Sandeep. Whatever training we are doing is 10.0 training, not 10.1. Since 10.1 is still not a stabilizer product and it doesn't have consolidation functionalities, and the usage is also very limited with respect to the 10.1 because of its limited capabilities and also the additional cost required to have HANA as a backend database. So we are not concentrating on 10.1 at all. The present training class is on 10, which covers both planning as well as consolidation. Okay, Sandeep. Yeah, VU has having a question. I have a question about client-side software. Can we download the Excel plugin for BPC? Yes, you can download it from SAP download basket. You can bring it and you can download it from there. You can do that. Yeah, this training is based on BPC. BPC 10, you can install it on HANA or you can install it on normal native BW. It doesn't matter. So if it is 10.1, the mandatory requirement is HANA. But BPC 10, it can be installed on any of the systems. For SAP Service Market, you need to have download rights to download that software. Without download rights, you cannot do anything. It is if you are working for a client, the client will have a user ID with download capabilities. Then you can download it. Sandeep, that's what I am saying. If the 10 you are installing on HANA database or you are installing on a native database, it doesn't matter. So from functionality perspective, there is no difference if your backend is HANA database or normal database. Only the execution of logic will be much quicker than your native BW system. That's the only difference with respect to 10. Mitesh, because others are typing the question, that is why I am reading the question and I am answering it to you. The client software and all your basis consultant will be having, so they will be having the rights to download and everything. We will not be having any rights given for us to download. Okay, coming to session 1, as we discussed in our yesterday's demo class, with this link, you can log in into the BPC system. Once you log in with the credential provided by basis consultant to you, you will be logging into this home screen. In this home screen, this is the user ID with which you are logging in, and this is the log off button. And this is the home page which will be available for the end user. So when we are discussing each of the activity, we will discuss each one in detail. And then this is the launch section from which you can launch it to the Microsoft Office, that is Excel, Word and PowerPoint. And there is another section called Planning and Consolidation Administration. This is nothing but our customization workbench. This is similar to your customization workbench if you are working in ECC system. So all our customizations happens in the administrative tab. And there is something called environment. What is environment means? Suppose when you are logging into your ECC system, there will be a client which is the highest level in the SAP system. Similar to client, in BPC we call it as environment. So whenever we are logging in, we will be logging into a particular environment and then we will be working on. So whenever you are logging into your ECC, you will be logging into a particular client. Similarly here, you will be logging into a particular environment. Anyone is having audio issues? If you are using microphone, I think you have to set your audio to telephone. Okay, thank you. And when you are logging in for the first time, when you are logging in the first time in the client environment, the only environment that will be available is the environmental shell. This is something like your 1000 company code if you are working in your ECC FI system. Similar to that, this is the system defined environmental shell by SAP, and you can copy this environment and create your own environment like that how I have created. So this is a copied version of the existing environmental shell, and then once you copy it from here, you can do whatever changes, whatever customization in the copied one. Don't touch the system provided environmental shell, because at any point of time if there is any problem happening in your customizations, you can delete this and you can recopy from the SAP as a vanilla version, and you can do the modifications and then changes in the new created environmental shell. So first step when you are logging into the BPC system in client environment is you will be logging into the environmental shell which is provided by SAP, and then you have to use copy option in order to copy the environmental shell and create your own environment. So first time when you logged in, you will be able to see which environment you logged in from here. So the copy option is available in your first time when you're logging in. Go to planning and consolidation administration. The administration is the section where all our customizations will be happening. Go to manage all environments. Then select the environmental shell. There is something called copy. So press that and give the environment name. I am just giving for some example. So when you are copying, you need not select data in models because data will be entered based on your client requirement. You can keep web documents and documents if you require, or you can leave it blank and then press copy option. I think they have created maximum number it has reached. So once you copy, you can able to copy it, but here the maximum number has been reached, so that we'll ask the basis team to increase the number of environments for a particular instance of the BPC server. But when you copy it, automatically it will be created as an environment like this, and once it is created like this, you have to select that particular environment shell and you have to log in into that particular environmental shell. When you copy it, you have an option to change the status of the environment from online to offline and offline to online. This feature is required when we are doing the transportation. At that time, we'll discuss what is the requirement to have offline and online features. And then you can change the description of the environment. This is the description which I have provided. And if you select this, it will show which user has been logged in at what time and what module it has been logged in. All those details, user activity details, will be available. Set template version means whenever we are working for the first time, we will be having one as a template version. Whenever you are going for any additional template creation, then you can set the template version to 2 so that the new enhancements will be happening in the second version if you want to capture it different template wise. Otherwise, you can update the same things in the version 1 itself. Yes, when you are doing your practice, you have to first time when you are doing your practice, either you can copy my environmental shell which is already preloaded with the logics and all, or because we are using a training environment, you can copy mine, but in live scenario you will be copying from environmental shell. So when you are working for the first time, copy my environmental shell and do whatever training related exercises and preparation in your own environmental shell. Don't touch or don't edit this Krishna_2014 because we have done a lot of developments in that, otherwise it will have some problems. So just copy it and use it according to your requirement. Yeah, Raj is having a question. How I missed on version, how 1 and 2 are different. See, this is like just templates, whatever you are developing, that will be stored in default version 1. If you want to store it in a different version, you can set it as 2, and only if you select version 2, then only version 2 templates will be available. If you select version 1 templates will be available. But generally, people will be doing everything in version 1 in order to have consistency. So this is with respect to the creation of the environment and changing the description and all. Once you created your own environment, go back to your administration screen, go to your home, click on the environment which you have logged in. In your live environment it will be environmental shell. Click on that, press continue. Then select the environment which you have created. I am just selecting for our understanding purposes Krishna_2015. So with this, what I am doing, I am connecting it from Krishna_2000 to Krishna_2015. So I am moving to a different environmental shell. So when you are working in live environment, generally there will be only one environment that will be created for the entire client, which environment holds both planning as well as consolidation applications inside the environment. So in your client place, when you will see one environmental shell and one more environment which is responsible with your client naming convention, that environmental shell. Only two environmental shell you will be able to see in your client environment. So I am going back to Krishna_2014. So whenever you want to switch, you have to select that and select whichever environment you want to log in, so that you will be logged in that particular environment. We can do it directly from here, or go to planning and consolidation administration screen, go to change environment, select the environment, and you can be logged into that particular environment. So either we can do it from home screen or through administration screen through change management. If you want to copy, you have to use the manage environment option. Then select the environmental shell, use the copy option. So this is the first thing what we will be doing when we are working in the live environment, creation of our own environment and logging into that particular environment. Once we logged into the created environment by us, then we can go to the administration screen, and then if you see here, there is something called dimensions and there is something called models. These are the basic master data, we can call it, in the BPC system. Dimensions are nothing but info objects in your BW system. If somebody is having BW knowledge, this is similar to your info objects. Models are nothing but your info cube. And in BW terminology, the environment is equivalent to info area. So it is similar to client in ECC. In BW terminology, it is equals to info area. And models, it will be called as info cubes, and dimensions, it is called info objects. So whenever we are creating from the front end, system will automatically create either the cube or info object or info area automatically in the backend system. We need not work in the backend BW system in order to enable all these things. So to understand that, we'll just log in into the backend BW system and we'll see how this environment is created and how these dimensions and models are created in the backend system. Dimitri is having a question. Every single BPC object generated in the backend in BW will start with CPMB. Yeah, BPC related objects which you have created from the front end will start with CPMB. You are right. I'm going to show you that one only. So backend BW system, and Humphrey is having a question. What corresponds to info area? Info area is nothing but your environment. I'll show you that also once I log in into the BW screen. So once you log in into the BW screen, the first and foremost transaction code will be logging in RSA1. So when you log into the RSA1, and if you see the info provider section in the left hand side modeling pane, you will see BPC separate naming convention / CPMB. And whatever the BW objects you are generating, that will be with 0 BW, 0 BW TCT, 0 ESM, all those things are different. But whatever the BPC, it will be starting with /CPMB /BPC under business planning and consolidation head. Now, as I said, if you see, this is the info area, Krishna_2014. So if you see here, it is starting with CPMB Krishna_2014, which is the info area, which is equivalent to, if you remember, whatever we are talking here is my environment name Krishna_2014. So environment equal to info area in your backend BW system. And whatever here I am not creating, system is automatically creating once you create from the front end. Now if you go inside, I am having, these are called cubes. What I said, cube is nothing but models. So go to administration, select models. Now if you see here, there is something called CONS_December, consolidation, EXP_plan. If you go to backend, CONS_December, consolidation, EXPN_plan. So these are the models which are getting created in the backend as a BW cube. So whenever you enter some data in the front end, automatically data will be stored in your backend BPC cubes. As previously in my demo class I said, to identify the BPC cubes will be with naming convention /CPMB. This is the notation used for BPC. And I'm just closing it to show you your normal BW cubes. So if you normally log into your BW cube, see, this is a BW cube which I have created, ZBPC BW. So this is your normal BW area and this is your BPC related area, which system automatically creates the naming convention and everything. You need not worry about the naming convention, system automatically creates it. And we discussed the info objects. These are the info objects in the backend BW system. So from the front end, when we create an info object, it will be created as a backend info object. Now if you see here in the dimensions, which is equivalent to info objects, I am having account, audit trail, category. If you go to the backend, account, audit trail, category, cost center, all these things are part of my dimensions, which are nothing but info objects. Now inside the info object, I am having attributes, hierarchies and text. So if I go inside the account dimension, if you see there is a hierarchy which is equivalent to your BW hierarchy in the hierarchy section, and there is attributes. Attributes are nothing but properties in BPC. Properties are nothing but columns, which is shown here. We'll discuss in detail what each one will does, but for initial understanding, these are called properties. In your BW system, these are called attributes with which you will be storing the additional information, and this is called hierarchy. And text is nothing but the description which you are storing here, that will be stored as text objects. Okay, so in our yesterday's demo, somebody is asking if we are doing full optimization after certain period of time, after data reaches certain level which is set by your basis consultant, if you do the full optimization, system will change the naming convention of the cube. So if you are linking any BO dashboards to this particular cube, then you will have a problem. That is why SAP has automatically creating one more multi-provider. So when you want to link it as a source to any of your BO objects or your BEX queries, link this multi-provider rather than the cube, so that the naming convention will remain as it is. That is why SAP always suggests use your multi-provider as a source when you are linking it to other modules like BO or BEX. But if you are directly working in BPC, even though system changes the technical name, after changing of the technical name also, system will automatically reroute in the BPC, and whatever you are doing from the front end, back end it will be storing in the same queue. You will not be aware of what are the changes backside it is happening. So from BPC perspective, it will not have any effect, but if you are taking this source as a source information for any of the other systems, then better to use the multi-provider rather than the cube name. Sandeep is having a question, attributes, how do we assign? Sandeep, when I am going into the dimension part, I will discuss how to add attributes from the BPC front end. Once we do addition from the front end, system automatically creates from the back end perspective. We need not work on the back end at all. System will automatically create the multi-provider. See, whatever I am saying here in the back end, all the things are created by the system automatically. We will not touch the BW system architecture at all. All the CPMB notations, the cube, the dimension or info object, multi-provider, everything will be created by the system automatically. That also we will see once I complete this area. I will create one dimension from the front end, and then we will see how it is reflecting in the back end and all. Dimitri is having a question. This means you cannot use transformation to load from BW cube into BPC cube, as BPC technical name can change. No, BW cube to BPC cube, we are not using this technical name. Instead, we are using, here we are linking it through a DM package from the BPC, not directly like your BW transformations. We will be doing BPC transformations where we will be linking it. So whenever there is a change, system automatically takes care because we are loading from the front-end BW's BPC system, not from the back-end. So system automatically takes care about that package. Yes, you are right, Dimitri. DM packages access BW cube data to load into BPC. It is not only cube data, it is for master data from info object and also the hierarchy from the info object. Those things also we will cover in our training classes. So okay, this is the basic architecture with which the BPC has been developed. So since BW is its backend, whatever anything we are discussing from the front end, it will be created as backend cubes and info objects automatically by the BPC system. So one should not be aware of BW system in order to work on the BPC system because it is done automatically by the BW system. So till now, if you are having any doubts, please let me know because these first few classes are very, very important. These are the major basic information we need to understand thoroughly in order to understand the BPC concept more clearly. So if you have any small question also, please let me know so that we'll discuss and then we'll move on to the next section. Shekhar is having a question. What is the role of BW consultant for BPC project implementation? In our demo class, as we discussed yesterday, the BW consultant major role will be the BPC technical activities like BPC template creation, BPF, work status, all those things, along with your BW data loads from BW to BPC system. They require certain transformations. If there is any requirement to provide certain routines required, then you need to work on those routines in order to enable the data into the BPC related format. So those kind of requirements towards technical aspects will be required from a BW consultant perspective. So who should have a BPC knowledge with respect to other aspects like reporting, work status, BPF creation, some scripting, security part creation, all these things will be technical consultant job who along with the normal BW work will do the BPC related work also. And sometimes what happens is in some projects due to cost constraints from ECC to BW also the data load requirements will be held by the BPC teams. So in those cases if you are already having a BW knowledge to activate data sources from ECC and then bring the data to the BW cube and from BW to BPC, if you know the full cycle, then you will be having much more weightage compared to the other people with BPC knowledge. So I have seen some projects due to cost constraints, they are keeping one BW consultant who can do from ECC to BW also, and BW to BPC anyway it is BPC consultant job. So in that way also a BW consultant with BPC knowledge will be very helpful for the project. Any other questions? Okay. So in BPC, first after creation of environment, these are called dimensions. There is no, Humphrey is having a question, how many dimensions get copied normally? See, there is no number of dimensions, but when you copy, system provides the basic type of dimensions as copy in your environmental shell. After that, whatever you are creating, that is according to your requirement, you can keep on creating. This is a library which can be shared across the models. This is similar to your info objects you keep on creating in BW, but for cube requirement purposes, there will be certain mandatory info objects required, and additional info objects you will be creating as per your own requirement. Similar to that architecture, BPC also, there will be library of dimensions. You can have 20, 30 library of dimensions. Out of that, whichever is required for particular model, we'll take those dimensions from the dimension library which we have created here. So when it comes to BPC system, SAP has predefined the type of dimension. What is the requirement to define the type is, once you select this particular type of dimension when you're creating your dimension, automatically certain mandatory properties will be copied to that particular dimension. Whether you maintain it or not, certain mandatory properties will get copied, which will be used as a technical development from the backend. So it takes the required properties from the backend system in order to work on the BPC system. That is why SAP has given the type of dimension. So for each type of dimension, it has certain mandatory properties that will get copied when you create a new dimension. Either you can create a new dimension or you can use the existing dimension for the type, because the type will be standard, so you can use the existing dimensions. Or some clients will say that I don't want to use the existing. You can copy, select this, and you can copy this and create your own naming convention. Suppose he doesn't want it as account, you want it as ACC, and suppose if client name is ABC. I'm just giving an example. So like this, if we want to have, then he will copy the existing ones and he will create a new dimension with the same type, so that whatever is the architecture that is available for account related dimension, all that architecture will be copied to this new dimension with the different naming convention. Or he can delete the existing master data in the account and he can add his own master data into the account for his working purposes. Like account is nothing but your GL account, chart of accounts. So if your client is having a different chart of accounts, then he can directly go inside. In the initial stage there will not be any data, so he can select and he can delete the entire master data and he can copy his own master data and he can process the dimension. So all those things can be possible, or else he can create a new one. Like this, he can select and delete. Once he delete, you can save and process. Save means it is just saving in the front end. It is not saving in the back end. Save and process means saving presently and back end also it is getting stored. I am just pressing save. So if I just close this, now if you see there is an orange color button. If you see the status information, it is showing some members of the dimension need to be processed. So once you process it, then only it will be shown as green and it will be available for the usage. If it is in the yellow color, you cannot use it. There might be some inconsistency errors happens when you are using this dimension in your model and you are loading some data. So always make sure that your dimensions are in green color so that you will process it. So in order to do the process, you have to use save and process. So when you want to update the master data, there are two ways of updating. One is through manual update directly from this section. And second is you can load it from your BW info object, which is an automated process. Once a GL account is created in your ECC, from ECC to BW through normal updates, it will happen. From BW to BPC, it will be the BPC consultant job to update from BW to BPC. So that is an automated process, you need not maintain. So at present we will be seeing the manual process. Later on, when we are discussing on the data manager section, we will discuss how to do the BW info object load for the master data. And as I said, when you're copying it, it will copy. These are the what you call properties or attributes that will get copied. Out of these attributes, there are some attributes which are mandatory. Like account, say I'll just put this as, say, advertising. Okay. So these are mandatory. Is account type, which account type it belongs to. In SAP, based on the account type, your sign will be decided whether it is a plus or minus. It is normal, FI related also. In FI also, when you are creating your GL account, you will be specifying lot of parameters. Like that same way, in BPC also you have to provide the parameters. Suppose I am putting it as expense. And rate type. Rate type is nothing but which rate is used to convert this expense GL account. So when you are working in a multi-folded environment, you want to have your currency conversions are also happening and reporting to the parent company at a group currency level. At that point of time, what is the exchange rate between local currency and group currency will be determined by the rate type. There will be average rate, closing rate. Based on your accounting standards, expenses will be taken at average rate, balance sheet accounts at closing rate, and investment and fixed assets will be at historical rate. That based upon your accounting standards and client requirement, you can keep on the rate type. So these are the mandatory properties which needs to be updated other than other properties which are available here. Once you update it, you put save and process. Now I have dimension has been processed. Now you close it and go back. Now see, it is showing as green. And Dimitri is having a question, what scenario I will be using front end save and not in the back end. Sometimes what happens is I will be updating some master data and I don't know whether the master data which I have updated is correct. I want some clarification from my manager also. So, but I don't want to lose whatever I have typed out. So I'll just save it. So it will be saved in the front end. Once I get a confirmation from my manager, if everything is okay, I'll directly go and process it. If there is minor change required, I'll do those minor changes and I will process it so that it will store in the back end also. Got it, Dimitri? Okay. And Humphrey is having a question. What is scaling? Scaling is a system defined property because we are using the Excel as a front end. So whenever there is a length of the characters increases certain limit, automatically the column width will be adjusted using the scaling property. If you are not mentioning anything, system will automatically take it as scaling as Y. So whenever that field appears, based on the length, automatically your column width also will change based on the, column width will change based on the property. So by default it is blank means Y. Mandatory settings for master data, we cannot define. These are the mandatory properties that by experience you need to get the mandatory properties. But when we are discussing each one of the dimension, at that time we will see how certain minimum dimensions are mandatory, other dimensions are it's only for information purposes. Certain times for logic triggering you need to have. Some of the main properties which are used mainly in the business rules. Unlike your ECCS and BCS, whatever properties we are using, that will be major part in business rule creation in consolidation. So those things we will discuss when we are discussing on the consolidation part. So with respect to master data dimensions and attributes, that comes by experience after doing projects and after going through all the training classes, we'll get what are all the important things towards planning. Some properties might be used in consolidation, some are just for information purposes. Those things we will get to know one by one, but not at the initial stage itself. And Shekhar is having a question. If we bring the data from ECC to BW and then BW to BPC, why do we need to create master data in BPC? Shekhar, when you're creating the data from ECC to BW and BW to BPC, you need to have master data in the BPC system. That is the mandatory thing. If there is no master data, you cannot load the transaction data. That is the simple thing. So for that purpose, we need to maintain master data first and then the transaction data. It is not only reporting tool, you have to remember BW is just a reporting tool, so it can create automatically the master data. But BPC is planning as well as reporting tool. So you need to have master data in order to plan. It is similar to your FI system. If you want to store any GL account data, first you need to create the GL account and then only you can use it in posting the entry. This is similar system. No, Shekhar, that is what I said. When we are updating the master data, I clearly told there are two ways of updating master data. One is manual way and another is automated process from BW master data. I said BW master data load we will discuss when we are discussing on the data manager section. So I clearly said that at present we are discussing the manual load. See, because what happens is when you are working in live environment, say account, entity, cost center, profit center, these dimensions you will get it from your ECC system. There are other dimensions like data source, reporting currency, and there will be something called category. These data will not be available in your ECC. You have to maintain directly in the BPC system. For that, manual input is required. So don't think that all the data that is available in your ECC will be fed directly into the dimensions. Some dimensions require manual update directly in the BPC system. Once we start understanding the dimension by dimension wise, you will be able to know some of the data only will be available in ECC, other things we need to maintain directly in the BPC system. I hope, Shekhar, I am clear on your question. There are multiple questions from your side. I hope I am clear on that. Salahuddin is having a question. Can master data only created manually or there is a way of mass load? Salahuddin, I did not get your point of what is mass load. We can bring it from BW, from the info object. We can directly maintain in the BPC system. If it is there in Excel, you can copy and paste it like normal Excel. I am not sure on what you mean exactly by mass load. Raj is having a question. Master data in BPC is mandatory. How to connect ECC data to BPC? See, it is simple. When you are creating your transformations, you are mapping your ECC to BW data. From BW data, you are mapping it to BPC. So it is whatever you are putting in account that should already available in your ECC system. So the same thing you are mapping from ECC to BW as a mapping rules, mapping tables, mapping section, everything you maintain your BW system. Similar way from BW to BPC, you need to do the same mappings through transformations. Raju, yes Raju, session has already started nearly 45 minutes back, Raju. Ganesh is having a question. If we have master data defined in BW, do we need to create any master data in BPC? Does BPC has its own master data? Yeah, as I am saying, Ganesh, if the master data is already available in your BW, you can bring it into BPC. But if certain master data cannot be available in your BW system, those things you need to create directly in the BPC system. That is the mandatory requirement. I'm not sure on that, Raju. how you got it as 4 p.m. as a start time, but for me it is 8:30 p.m. IST will be the time. So I don't know which time zone you are belonging to, so that equivalent you can calculate. So daily class, sorry, not daily, weekly our classes will be 8:30 IST. So you can convert it back to your time zone, and that will be our starting time. Salahuddin, we will be having on Saturday and Sunday. So yesterday we have in the demo section, we have asked so many people what is the best time they want. So everyone suggested only on Saturday and Sunday. So we'll stick on to Saturday and Sunday, and the timings will be 8:30 p.m. IST. So if you are working in different time zones, please convert it, so that will be the timelines, 8:30 p.m. IST. Mitesh, can you? Mitesh is asking a question. Can you show the new entry you have created? Yeah, Mitesh. I am going to that. Before that, I am answering the questions so that everyone will be clear. Once I complete these questions, then I will show it. Okay, Shekhar. Shekhar, for these purposes, you can directly contact Techie training team. They will guide you with respect to how and what needs to be done and all, because I am not the primary source of contact. So you can contact the Techie training team. Rajiv is having a question. Yeah, Rajiv, you will get the recorded session. After this class, they will share the recorded session link. You can download it. So in future also, if you are missing any class, if you send those details to the Techie training team, they will forward you the recorded session. Shekhar is having a question. I am basically a BW consultant, would like to learn BPC. Yeah, as we discussed, Shekhar, in our demo class also, mainly for BPC, people with FI and people with BW and ABAP will be mainly coming to BPC system, because of the requirement towards BPC is BW requirement will be there, FI requirement towards a functional consultant, ABAP requirement towards the coding part in the BPC planning projects. So these three people will have added advantage compared to the other people. Raj is having a question. As I understand, data mapping from ECC to BW is BW consultant job, and in BPC we can work from BW data. Yes, Raj, ECC to BW is majorly the BW consultant work. We are not touching the BW ECC to BW part at all, because it is the core BW consultant job. From BW to BPC, once it is available in BW, that is the requirement of the BPC consultant. Ganesh is having a question, how long the course will go? I mean the duration. Duration will be 6 to 7 weeks, because we are planning to have weekly 2 classes. So Ganesh, it will go for 6 to 7 weeks max. Venkat is having a question. I am FICO consultant. How do I fit in? Yeah, Venkat, if you are a functional consultant, you will be looking towards developing towards a solution consultant role in BPC, so that you will be doing major solutioning part, and you will be assisting the BW consultant and whoever is the technical consultant in the logic part, and what logics you require and how to use it, and how to design the BPC system, what master data is required, and how you are getting the financial numbers either in planning or consolidation. All these things are FI consultant job. Kamlesh is having a question. The data in BPC needs to be in certain format. Yes, Kamlesh. Whatever right now we are discussing is only we are discussing the basics of the BPC system. Once we go into the data load section, we'll discuss in detail what are all the formats that is required and how to load the data from BW to BPC. All those things in detail we can learn. So at that point of time, if you are, after discussing those things, if you are having additional questions, at that time you can ask, so that you will have little clarity on how the BPC works, and then you will have your so many questions might have been answered in that. So I think Kamlesh will discuss those things at those point of time, because right now we just started the BPC basics, so it is no point discussing on the data loads directly now. Yeah, whatever you are saying, 76 value fields, those things we'll discuss when we are discussing on the data load section, because BPC works on one single key figure. But to take that, we need to create it as a multiple account dimension values. That option is available. That is the same concept, key based model to account based model. We'll discuss at that point of time how to tackle that. Sandeep is having question, when these classes will happen. Sandeep, this is weekend batch, Saturday and Sunday. So it is 8:30 p.m. IST. I am not sure on which time zone you are related to. So it is 8:30 p.m. IST on Saturday and Sunday for 2 to 2.5 hours daily. It will be probably 6 to 7 weeks, Sandeep. Shibani, at present we are conducting only weekend batch. Okay, so coming back to our BPC system, as we discussed, whatever we are creating from the front end, system automatically creates in the back end as a dimension is equal to info object. So we will go back to our back end. I have created ACC underscore ABC as a new dimension. Go back here, refresh. I think it is not refreshing. I'll just log out and log in. See, ACC underscore ABC has been created from the front end. So if you see here, the hierarchy will be created and attributes also created, which is created as a master data property in our front end system. If you go and see here, if you see here, offset account used in eliminations is used by consolidation process. If you see here, these are the attributes. Offset account used in US eliminations is used by consolidation process. All these things are attributes, is nothing but properties which are columns in your master data. So system automatically creates these things. You need not worry about creating in the back end. Yes, Salahuddin is having a question. Do you have SAP press books for BPC? Yes, Salahuddin. SAP has given BPC 420, 430 and 440. 420 is mainly for administrative things and 430 is for reporting and 440 is mainly meant for consolidation. So techie training team will be providing the tab books along with the access, and other information explaining certain other topics in a detailed way through some PPTs and through some PDF documents, they will provide those support to you. Dimitri is having a question, will the BW attributes be ever created as a navigation attributes? Yeah, because we are creating from the front end, system automatically takes whether to take it as that or not. So whatever it is there, it will be created as a navigation attribute. For hierarchy attribute, it will be a display attribute. So system automatically takes care about creation, and we need not worry about these things. And some things called scaling and all, those will be your display attributes, DIS will be there. And at any point of time, we will not be touching the backend and we will not be modifying from the backend at all. So whatever system is creating, we are nowhere concerned about it. System will automatically takes care about that. And then, as we discussed, once we create any model also, system needs to create as a backend cube. So we'll just create one model. Like how we did dimension copy, either we can copy or we can create a new model or we can edit the new model and delete it. So I'm just copying it. Later on we'll see what are all the mandatory dimensions required for each of the type, consolidation type separately, planning type separately. So I'm just creating, say, so once I create it from the front end, it should automatically create in the back end as a cube. So now I have created January underscore 2015 as a consolidation type model. We'll discuss after this what is financial, what is consolidation after we discussing the other things. Now go back and refresh. I don't think it is refreshing. Yeah, log out and log in. Go to RSA1. Now see, January underscore 2015 has been created as a model in our front end. System automatically created in the back end as a cube. So automatically system takes care about those options. Yeah, Mitesh, we'll discuss the type and all. Once we complete this, I will just show how system is creating in the backend. Then I will discuss in detail what is type and how it is required and all. So with this, whatever the environment we are creating in the backend, it will be created as info area. Under info area, you will be having cubes, which is nothing but models. Whatever you are creating in the front end, it will be automatically created as a cube in the backend. And dimensions, whatever you are creating, it will be created as a backend info objects. And what are all the properties inside a dimension will be created as an attribute. If there is a hierarchy, it will be created as a hierarchy in your backend BW system. And we will not be touching any of the CPMB related either cube or info area or attributes or info objects. And SAP suggests not to touch the backend CPMB related objects, so that if there is any changes that is happening in the backend, there is no proper justification given by SAP what will be the problems you will be facing from the front end when you are working in the BPC system, because lot of things have been predefined by BPC system along with the type, and along with that there is a predefined programs are running in the backend system. So SAP suggests never to touch any BPC objects from the backend. Always do it from the front end. And as we discussed, we have created this. If you want to edit the members, you can go to the edit members section and you can add whatever thing you want, and the ID will have 32 characters as its length. That is the maximum length of the ID which you can specify in your BPC system, and all other things you can define the length of the property. So how to define the other properties length and what properties you require and all? Go to the structure of the dimension. Now if you see here, these are the properties. This section is called properties. And in our today's class, somebody is asking how to know which is the mandatory property for this type of dimension account. Whatever here you are seeing in the blue color, these are the mandatory properties. Whether you maintain values or not, by default when you select the type of dimension as a, these properties will automatically get created. And there are some other properties with white color. These dimensions are, depending upon your requirement, you can use it or you can delete it or you can keep it as blank. Now if you see here, there is a button called remove. Now if you select the first line item, and if you see, remove button has been disabled. Even by any problem also you cannot delete this particular mandatory property. You maintain value or not, that is secondary question, but this is the mandatory for type A. And if you select the second one, if you see, the remove option is available. I can remove it and save it. Now go back to the member section. See, I have removed the offset. That particular property value or that column has been removed from the front end. So now you go back to the structure. Now just I'm adding one more property. So I'm just putting it for your information how it will work and all. So add a new property. Say I'm putting, say, gap. So which gap it relates to. I'm just, for an example, I'm putting the property. It can be anything. So I'm fixing length as 10. Press OK. And I'm deleting the other hierarchies. So these are the hierarchies which are available at present. So you can have one hierarchy, 2, 3, 4 multiple hierarchies you can maintain. Why BPC allows multiple hierarchies? When it comes to consolidation, sometimes you will be requiring to report at FSV level, which is there in your FI system. And when it comes to consolidation, you might require to report at a different hierarchy level. So for that purpose, for one reporting purpose, we will keep one. For another, we will keep one. For IFRS, for US GAAP, one more hierarchy. So once the data entry is done at base level, the reporting can be done at any of the hierarchy level. So that is the advantage SAP gives, so that you can have multiple hierarchies and you can see the data in multiple financial statement versions, like how you call it in FI system. We call it as hierarchical versions. Is the audio clear, or anyone facing the audio issues? Okay. Okay, thank you very much. So Shivani has lost some audio. So I'm just reporting. So I'll just repeat the things. So if you want to add any of the property, you can add the new property using new property, and you can add this. And whatever is in the white color, you can remove it using this button called remove. And you can have multiple hierarchies. You can define hierarchy 1, hierarchy 2, hierarchy 3, and hierarchy 4. System automatically creates the ideas parent H1, H2, H3, H4. This is system defined hierarchy formatting. You just give the naming. This is the description. This is the ID system creates. Suppose if I am adding one more thing, just go here, press H5. Press OK. System automatically creates the ID. So system ID creation will be by system for hierarchies. The normal ID will be created by you. So once you've done any of the changes here, you can change the description also. You have to save it in order to save to the backend. So save it. Now settings have been changed. Now if you want to add the master data, you can go from members of the dimension here. Now see, the two properties which I have deleted have been gone from here. The additional property which I have created, gap, has been added here. And hierarchy 5 I have added, that has been added as a hierarchy here. So like this, system will provide it the property or an attribute in your BW system as a column. Now here I am seeing all the things as a description. If I want to see the ID, see this is description, elimination code and all. If I want to see the ID, because here I am having ID as well as name as description. Right now I am seeing description. If I want to see ID, I have an option here, display. Instead of name, you select it as ID. Now see, it is showing parent H1, H2, H3 like that, which is the ID column. And you have something called apply hierarchy order. So once the data is available, if you are having multiple hierarchies, if you want the IDs to be sorted based on the hierarchy, you can select based on which hierarchy you want to sort the data. And then you can export it to a CSV file, so that if you want to add anything or if you want to keep it as a CSV file outside, you can keep it. And you can open that CSV file. See, like this, system will automatically create. Suppose if I am having master data in Excel, like I'm just putting for an example. Okay, like this, some master data is there which my client has provided in Excel. In those cases, I need not worry, I can just copy. So I'm just putting the same as description also. I can just copy. I can update the master data. Press Ctrl V. See, automatically it will get updated. Either you can save, which we have already discussed, or directly save and process if you are okay with the values. It will ask whether to take environment offline. You press no, because for updation it is not required to take it as offline. Now if you see here, I have updated the ID and description, and I have not updated the account type. When I am processing the dimension, it is showing error occurred while processing the dimension. If you go to the details, it will show you the account type property is blank. So as I said, for GL account, the account type is mandatory in order to decide which sign it needs to assign. It is similar to your FI. So I need to have certain account type property as a mandatory property to be defined. So these things you will be knowing by experience after doing this. And if sometimes what happens, if you are doing and processing it also, if there is any mandatory requirement, system will throw up an error like that. Now I have updated the account type. Just save and process. Now see, the dimension has been successfully processed. Now there is no chance of having any duplication here in the BPC system with respect to ID. So if I try to create same master data and press enter and try to save, see, system will throw up error. It will show invalid ID. ID has been already used. That means same master data ID I cannot maintain twice. And for this, account type property is mandatory. That is why it is asking account type property also. Now, as I said, I have deleted two properties from this particular dimension. One is offset and another is, if you remember, we have deleted two properties. We just go back and see how the attributes are getting deleted from backend system also. So generally when you are working in live environment, for the first time, if the master data has to be uploaded, client will provide you the Excel file. You can just copy and paste it into your BPC system. Now go to attributes. Now if you see, there is something called use elimination property. All those properties has been gone, and I have added one property called gap, and it has been created as a navigation attribute automatically. So whatever you have deleted will be backend also, it will get deleted. Whatever new additions you are doing, it will get added up here. So Kamlesh is having a question, is there a way where I can have custom defined property and make it as mandatory? What is navigation and display attribute? See, navigation attribute will automatically created by the BPC system. See, it is for just for an information, it is normally a BW related technical term, navigational and display attributes. System automatically takes from the BPC perspective, so we need not worry about how it is creating as a navigation or a display attributes. If you are creating as a BW, normal BW cubes, which the normal BW consultant will do, then they need to worry about navigational and display objects and all. From BPC perspective, we are least bother whether it is a navigation or a display attribute. From the front end only we will be seeing. And Kamlesh is having question, is there a way where I can have customer defined property and make it as mandatory? Whatever property you are defining, these are not mandatory. So you cannot have custom defined property as a mandatory value. Only SAP predefined properties can be made as mandatory properties. So I'm just closing this. I'm just going into the normal account dimension in order to show you other details. And as we said, account type is mandatory property. So what are all there that will be allowed in account type? This is normal your accounts: expense, assets, liabilities, and then income. So the same thing which you define it in your ECC system, the same way BPC allows only the 4 types of accounts. EXP meant for expenses, AST for assets, LEQ for liabilities, INC for income. Okay, and the rate type property here, you can define what rate type you want to use. This is similar to your TCA table maintenance in your FI system, like average rate, closing rate, historical rate, whatever rate you want to maintain. So as I said in my initial demo class also, whoever planning to have a functional consultant and a solution architect role, these master data definition, what needs to be part of master data and what is required and all, should be the job of the solution consultant to define all these properties and values. And then here there is something called parent H1, which is nothing but hierarchy. So if I am seeing this data in this line format, like your normal Excel format, this is called list view. If you see here, there is view called list view. If I want to see it in hierarchical fashion, the master data, you select it as hierarchy. Then system will show you in the hierarchical view. Balance sheet is the top node. Under balance sheet, total assets. Under total assets, fixed assets. Under fixed assets, land and buildings. So it's a 4-level hierarchy structure. So like this, system master data, either you can view it in hierarchical view or a list view. List view is your normal Excel kind of a thing. Hierarchical view is normal hierarchy view. And when you are viewing it, you have an option to view member and description, or only the member ID, or only the description without the ID. And when you are viewing, you can view H1, H2, H3, H4. If you are having multiple hierarchies, you can view. I don't have defined H2 hierarchies, so if I select, it will show there is no hierarchy value, so it will show all the items one by one, because hierarchy 2 is not defined. If I have defined the hierarchy 2, then it will show in the same hierarchical fashion like H1, whatever the hierarchy you have defined. And if you see here, say from here also I can change the hierarchy name. Suppose cash is there. If I want to move it to fixed assets, either I can do it directly in the list view, or directly I can drag and drop it under fixed assets. If I drag it and drop it under fixed assets, in order to take these changes into picture, I have to press save and process. So automatically in the list view, the cash related hierarchy node will be changed to fixed assets. Now we'll go to the list view. We'll see cash. So for cash, what is the hierarchy node? BS110. 110 is fixed assets. So we have grouped from current assets to fixed assets. In the hierarchical sheet, system automatically moved it to 110. Now again we'll go back and move it to current assets 120, and we'll see whether it is changing the parent or not from the front end. Now I'll again go. So I'll bring back cash from fixed assets to current assets, which is the correct treatment. Now again I'll save and process. So I can, if there is any changes required, I need not directly go and do the changes directly in the list view. I can do those changes directly in the hierarchical view. Because in list view, to identify which is the parent and which is the related base member, it is very difficult. But once you see it in hierarchy view, it is very easy to map it where it belongs to and all. So that option also they have provided directly here. Now we will directly go to list view. Now it should represent 120. Cash, and see the hierarchy node, it is 120, which is the current assets. So like that, from the hierarchy structure also, because from hierarchy structure it is very easy to identify which node it belongs to. Now if you want to see it here, land and buildings, to which it belongs to, now you have to go to parent node BS110. Now you have to search BS110 what it represents. Then only you will understand this is part of fixed assets. But if you are seeing from the hierarchy view, it is very easy to understand, and drag and drop also very easy. Pranav, this is the first session. Yesterday was the demo session where we have not seen any of the system, but we have just gone through the overview of the BPC and some demo related things. Mitesh is having a question, how do system define top node? System will not define the top node. You have to define what is the top node and what is the base node. So if it all depends upon your chart of accounts hierarchy. In your FI system, how you are defining what is a top node and what is the base node. Your balance sheet is the top node. Under that you have fixed assets. Under that current assets. Under fixed assets, land and buildings. Under that vehicles. Like that you are defining at the FI system level. The same way you are defining in the BPC also. The hierarchy, what is the top node, what is the base node, system doesn't know. You have to provide whatever you are providing as a hierarchy node, that will become the top node. Whatever is the last member, that will become the base node. So whenever the data entry is happening in BPC, always happens at base level. Roll-ups will happen automatically till the top node, which yesterday we have seen. When we are discussing on the reporting part also, we will see how the data entry happens at base level, which will be rolled up till the top node. So this is basically with respect to defining the structure of the dimension properties and adding the properties, going and changing the structure, adding the hierarchies and changing the hierarchy values as and when it is required. Unlike your BW system, whatever you want to create it as a parent node, that should be a valid member of your master data ID. In your in your BW system, you can create a hierarchy with a text node, which is not part of your normal master data. But in BPC, whatever hierarchy node you are creating, that should be a valid member ID. Then only you can create it as a hierarchy node. Otherwise, system will not allow you to create. That is why data entry happens at your base level, roll-ups happens at your top node, which is a valid ID. Since BW is only a reporting system, then there is no data entry happening in the BW system. It allows a text node to happen to be a parent node. But in wherever the input is possible in SAP systems, either in ECC or BPC systems, a top node should also be a valid member in your ID section. Suppose if I am putting BS999 here. Okay, which is not available in my ID at all. My ID closes with BS223. I am putting BS999, which is not there at all in my ID. Now try to save and process. See, it will throw up an error. BS999 in hierarchy H1 does not exist. That means this value does not exist in your ID at all. So if it is available in ID, then only it will be created as a hierarchy node. This is very, very important comparing to your BW architecture. Now, if I want to see a particular value, I can search it using this toggle search. Once I go into that particular ID, this toggle search will open. Click on that, and then you can do your normal search. Put something and enter. It will show whatever starting with PL. Like this, you can search on any of the property value or ID or description or any of the things. So in BPC master data, the search will be like this. So whatever you are seeing in the ECC screens, if you want to see the list of chart of accounts, then you have to go to the search button and you have to put the numbers. It's very difficult job. You have to put the while character and then by company code. All those things will not be there in the BPC system. It is a simple search which will be available like Excel. Yeah. PS is having a question. Going forward, we will always have to type the questions. Can we ask them instead of typing? Going forward, they will allow you to speak through mic also. After for one class or two classes, they will enable that, I think. Then you can directly ask the question by raising hand also. Or if you can just type that I want to ask the question, I will unmute you so that you can talk. Rajiv is having a question. Can one member ID be assigned to two parent hierarchies? Rajiv, how do you think it is practically possible? This is one member ID. There is only one column available. So how can you assign it to two things? So practically, whatever you are asking is not at all possible. If Kamlesh is having a question, if you want to use hierarchy, then naming convention becomes very important. Yeah, generally, yeah, it is any hierarchy, whether you take BPC system or your ECC system, any place the master data means the naming convention is very, very important, based on which your entire structure will depend. Always I will say that naming convention is very, very important. Raj, I did not get you. What is the define ID range means what? I did not get you. The ID can be any of the characters. The 32 characters is the length which is provided by SAP. So within 32 you can use anything, either number, digits, whatever you want. Yeah. That BS000, BS999, I have defined 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 also. So it is up to me what I want to write in the ID section. So if your GL account is 10001, then you can put 10001 as your GL account. So that depends upon client master data, how they are maintaining. The same way we can replicate in the BPC system. Here only, I have just shown you how to update the master data in ABC underscore account dimension. You can directly type it here, or you can load it through BW system, which we have already discussed. A lot of people ask the question, like from BW direct load into master data is possible or not. Kamlesh is having a question. How do we manage if the balance is credit, then it is a liability, and if it is debit, it becomes an asset? See Kamlesh, it is very simple. I'll ask you one question. You are having an expense account which is showing a minus value. What it refers to? Same thing. Expense value will be generally plus. If it is showing as minus, that means there is some refund that has happened towards that expense. So whatever is the value your SAP has in your FI system also, if you go and see expense account, it will be shown as plus value. Wherever there is a refund, that will be shown as minus value. That means you have excessively received more than what you have expended. It is similar to that. Yeah, retained earnings can be negative or positive. If it is negative, it is a loss. If it is a positive, it is a profit. It will be grouped under shareholders' equity. So if it is a profit, it will add back to your shareholders' equity. If it is a negative, it will reduce your shareholders' equity. See Kamlesh, if you are working in accounting, see, by mere change of the value, you will not group it differently. See, if I'm having a retained earnings account, I'll be grouping under equity section only. So if it is a plus value, it will add back to my equity. If it is a minus value, it will reduce my equity. For 1 month, if I am getting a negative value, that doesn't mean that I have to take this and group it into a different section. It is not like that. So for that particular month, that account is having a negative value. For next month, it might be the positive value. So you cannot group it month on month wise, the groupings cannot be changed. So it's more of a functional thing which you are asking. It's normal your accounting practice which will happen generally. Sometimes you will be having a creditor account where you will be, or something you are having accounts payable. You have paid excess. Then what happens? It will show with a negative value. Then you will be grouping in the same thing. Yeah, that is what I am saying. In SAP FI system, because it is only a reporting system at individual line item basis, you will be doing that. But once it comes to planning system, which we are doing at the GL balance level, we will not do the grouping at all. We will be adding it to that particular section only. Okay. PS is having a question. Is this more of a functional or technical course? PS, this is not a functional or technical course. What I can say is BPC is a product which have technical requirement as well as functional requirements. So if you want to do a BPC project, you should have a person who with a functional background, a person with technical background. Both supporting can do a BPC project. This is similar to if you are working in FI. FI will be having normal finance background people, functional requirements will be there. But if there is any enhancement required, they need an ABAPO help. Like that, here also a combination of functional aspects and a combination of technical aspects will be grouped and be called as BPC product, which will be delivered. So for BPC, both technical consultant and functional consultant requirement is required. My background is a functional consultant, but nearly I worked in 8 to 9 projects with technical consultants, so I more of a thing, I know the technical aspects also. So whenever I am explaining to my technical consultant, I need to understand how they are writing the things and all. I am basically a certified FI BPC consultant along with a chartered accountancy background, and I am also having BCS and ECCS knowledge also, which is the consolidation 3-year modules. Yes, PS is having a question. We'll be taking EPM reporting. Yeah, see, when it comes to BPC, as we discussed in our demo class also, what are all the contents we are going to cover. So exhaustive BPC related things including reporting, consolidation, advanced consolidation topics we'll be going to cover. Consolidation method will not be different as such from BCS, but the way you depict the values like ownership, maintenance of ownership manager, and maintenance of the business rules will totally differ from BCS. The screens will totally differ. But as such, the accounting treatment will never change, but how you depict and how you use the functionality will totally differ. Yeah, you can use it for any of the thing. See, budgeting or planning is not specific. You can use it for any of the thing. Kamlesh, it is simple. If I can do a consolidation directly in Excel, why do I want SAP at all? So if you want to have more automated thing compared to your consolidation, which is your existing consolidation, then you want to go it for an advanced kind of a thing and more user-friendly kind of a things, you have to go for BPC kind of a thing. If you want to stick to the old things, still SAP does ECCS, which is your FI consolidation, and SAP has stopped supporting FI consolidation ECCS. So if there is any problem when you are doing consolidation, if you have struck up, then you are lost. Sandeep is having a question, do we need in-depth knowledge of BW? No, Sandeep, as we discussed, in-depth knowledge of BW is still not required, but some of the BW knowledge is required, which we are going to cover in our training classes. But if you are a BW consultant, along with BW knowledge, if you are having BPC, then you will be given more preference towards a technical consultant for the BPC projects, because you are already having the core BW knowledge, which is the backend for BPC, and also the BPC concept knowledge. Kamlesh is having a question, SAP SCM is meant for consolidation, correct? No, Kamlesh, it is not exactly the consolidation. SCM is called SCM suite, which is having BCS, business consolidation, management cockpit, statistical statistical reporting. There is profitability and cost management. One more product is there. So SCM is called a suite. Under that, consolidation is one module. Like EPM, EPM is called one suite. EPM has BPC, SSM, PCM, FC, disclosure management. So these are the different tools under EPM category. So EPM is mainly, you can call it as category. Under that, sub versions will be BPC, SSM, like that. Does the knowledge of BPS and IP help in learning this? I can say from functional perspective, BPS and IP knowledge will be very helpful, but from the screens perspective, BPS and IP screens are totally SAP screens, but now whatever you are learning will be basically through Excel based tools. So the screens will be different, but the functionality will help you in learning the BPC. Sandeep is a question. I started my career as CO consultant and then moved to BW, and past 5 years BW BPS consultant completed. So will BPC help me? So based on your knowledge, I think BPC will help you. You can do more towards planning projects because you are already having CO experience with BW and BPS also. So for planning projects, your experience will be very, very good. Okay, going back to our dimensionalities. So as we discussed, these are the types of dimensions SAP has provided. So when we are discussing, there are each type of dimension will have certain role to play. We have planning and consolidation as two different topics. So first we'll start with planning related activities. Why I say planning related activities means whatever we are learning till consolidation, those topics will be used in planning as well as consolidation projects. After that, whatever we will be learning in consolidation, that is only specific to consolidation, including the concepts which you used in the planning application. So we'll start with planning related functionalities, and then once we go into consolidation, the existing planning related functionalities and consolidation specific functionalities will be used in consolidation projects. So our training will be with all the concepts of planning, which is security rules, business rules. This is not particularly planning, which is applicable for both planning as well as consolidation. But when we are discussing, we'll create a planning cube and we'll discuss all the functionalities. So there are some of the dimensions which are specific to consolidation. So when we log in into the consolidation section, at that time, I'll explain each of the consolidation related dimension in detail and how it will help in consolidation, because those are majorly specific towards consolidation. Little bit consolidation accounting knowledge will be helpful in understanding those dimensionalities. Now I'll discuss one by one which is applicable for planning related thing. One is account dimension, which we have already seen. Account dimension will start with type A. So what is there in the account dimension is nothing but your chart of accounts. And what is the account type? If you want to have currency conversion, then rate type is also mandatory, because based on the rate type only your currency conversion will happen. And then hierarchy you can define, and any other additional properties you can maintain in your BPC system. You can maintain that additional properties. What is the requirement to create additional properties is you can bring these additional properties in your reporting when you are reporting in your Excel. That option is also available. Suppose if I am having entity as a dimension, for each entity it is belonging to certain region. So 2-3 entities belonging to a region. So I can bring that region property also into the reporting. So I can view the data by entity wise or by summarized at region wise also using the property value. For those purposes you can maintain the properties. That is first thing. And second thing, there are mandatory properties by SAP which you need to maintain. And third is the properties which are required for consolidation. In order to work on consolidation, certain properties are mandatory. For those purposes you need to have properties. So these are the three main purposes why we use properties in the BPC system. And then audit trail, which is more of a consolidation related thing. When we are discussing on consolidation, we will discuss in detail. And then the next one is category. What is category is nothing but your way of representation of data. Actual data, planned data, forecasted data, budgeted data. In order to segregate the different types of data into the BPC system, we use a term called category, which is nothing but version in your BW system. Generally what happens in your ECC, only one data is available, that is actual data. But when it comes to BPC system, you can do planning, forecasting, and then budgeting also. So I have reported say 1000 as my budgeting profit. My forecasted profit might be 900. My planned profit might be 1500. So I need to show the different data separately in order to have variance analysis between actual versus budget, or budget versus plan, or budget versus forecast. In order to segregate the data and store it separately, I need to have a category dimension. So the other properties, some of the properties are mandatory and some of the properties are not mandatory. In order to understand what are all the mandatory properties, as we discussed, we can go into the structure of the dimension and then see whichever is in the blue color is the mandatory. Even though the year is mandatory, no need to maintain the year value. It's only a mandatory property. If you want, you can maintain, or if you don't want, you can leave it blank also. But if you see in account type, if you are not maintaining the rate type, system is automatically throwing up errors. So that is why I said these property value maintenance you will get by experience. And other properties are not that much mandatory. According to requirement you can use it, or you can leave it as blank. There are so many properties which you will be leaving it as blank in BPC system. Yeah, Aapte is having a question, can we add properties later in the config? Properties can be added at any point of time. When you are completing your development also, you can add the properties. There is no problem at all. And you can keep on updating the properties as and when it is required. Sometimes technical consultant will be using properties in order to bring it into their logic section also. For that purpose also, they will create some additional properties. And in reporting, if you want to segregate some of the templates based on the some property values, you will create some additional properties also. So the property creation in the configuration will be a never-ending process. Till you complete your development, it will be keep on adding. And then next is entity dimension, which is with E property. Generally entity dimension is your, if you are working in consolidation, it will be your legal entity, or if it is a management consolidation, either it is a business area related consolidation or profit center consolidation, depending upon your requirement. Generally, we'll keep entities as the entity dimension values, which will be used for segregating the data entry based on the entity wise. So here also, for each entity, we need to identify what is the currency in which it is working. This is similar to your FI system also, where you will be specifying the entity currency. Here also you will be specifying what is the entity currency. And if you go to the structure of the dimension, if you see the control level, control currency not LC, currency is the mandatory properties. Out of that, currency property you can maintain, other things you can leave it blank also. And hierarchies also you can add hierarchy 1, hierarchy 2 depending upon your requirements. And here there is one more thing called referential integrity. This I will discuss after discussing all the dimensional properties and values, so that at that point of time you will be understanding the other dimensions also, so that at that time I can discuss the referential integrity in detail. Yeah, Salahuddin is having question. I am sorry, if entity would be a company code, right? Yeah, generally it will be company code. It can be sometimes, if you are working in planning scenarios, it can be cost center, profit center, business area, region, anything. But in consolidation, generally the legal entity will be taken as company code. But it is not hard and fast rule. It can be anything based on which either your planning or consolidation is taking place. That will be treated as entity dimension. No, Hafri. Hafri is having question, if dimensions are qualified with alphabet C, D, E, does that mean you have limited dimension? No, Hafri. Once I complete the dimensions and everything, you will be able to understand all these questions will be answered. Okay, so these are the entities with respect to which the currencies will be maintained, and this is the hierarchy. If you want to view it in hierarchical view, go to hierarchical view. So world is the top node, under that Africa, under that Algeria and South Africa, like that. You can define the entity hierarchy also. And flow is mainly towards consolidation. Input currency. This is the value which is used in your BPC system to input data. So if I am having say 5 entities which are using Australian dollar, Singapore dollar, INR, SGD and USD, then those 5 currencies should be maintained in the input currency dimension. So whatever currencies I am maintaining in input dimension, only in those currencies I can do either planning or consolidation. So whatever is the currencies in which your company is dealing with, all those currencies should be part of your input currency dimension, which will start with R as a type of dimension. And M and D we will discuss when we are discussing on the currency conversion. At that point of time, you will understand more easily what it refers to. But at this point of time, this is similar to your ticker table maintenance. What is indirect code and direct code? This is similar to that notification. D is a direct code and M is an indirect code. Okay. Then intercompany is mainly towards consolidation. When we are discussing on consolidation, I'll discuss on this. O account, this is ownership related account, which is part of consolidation. I'll discuss at that point of time. And then reporting currency. This is very important property, because even though I'm having 6-7 input currencies, globally I'll be reporting only at USD. So at that point of time, I want to know which are the currencies I am reporting globally. All my P&L should be maintained in that global currency, which is a reporting currency. Those currencies you need to maintain it as reporting currency values. And LC is the value for BPC system. Whatever you are entering the data, you will be entering the data in the LC only. System automatically identifies the value of the LC from the entity master data you have maintained in the BPC system. So when I am entering the data, I always use LC. But how the system knows which entity LC is what? That is based on my entity definition. So system identifies, if I select AU as my entity, system identify LC is equal to AUD. If I enter CA as my entity, system identifies CAD as my entity currency, that is equal to LC. So when we are discussing on the currency conversion, we can see how the system treats the LC value and converts it into the reporting currencies. So but the data entry at this point of time, you remember data entry always happens with LC in the BPC system. How the system knows what is the LC currency? Based on the entity property maintained in the currency property. Then R underscore account, which is rate application. As we discussed in accounts, we have rate type, closing rate, average rate, historical rate. Where these values will be maintained? That is maintained in R underscore account dimension. Average rate, closing rate, end rate, historical rate. So these values which are maintained in R underscore account only can be used in rate type property account. And this R underscore account is part of rate model, which is used to do the currency conversions. R underscore entity is a entity which is used to store the exchange rates. Since exchange rates, we cannot store it for only to a particular entity. Exchange rate is at a global level, which is at a client level. It can be between any entity to any entity. That is why SAP puts R underscore entity at global level. This is the standard one which we will use in all the BPC projects, because it is at a client level. And scope dimension. Scope dimension is mainly used to do the consolidations, that is group consolidations, which we will discuss in the consolidation part. And then the time dimension. In BPC, we maintain the time in this fashion, 2006.0102, like this. First we will maintain the months, 12 months, and then quarters, and then year. So when you enter the data at this level, automatic roll up to Q1, automatic roll up to the total. And description according to your requirement. Parent H1, 1, 2, 3 will be part of your Q1, 4, 5, 6 will be part of your Q2. And when you are mentioning, there is some mandatory properties you need to maintain, like base period. Sometimes some clients will use January to December as their accounting year. Then your first base period will be January. If your April is your first period, then April becomes 001 and your January will become set 11th period. Like that, Q1 will be 003, 006, 009, Q4 will be 12 and total will be 12. This is the same convention we need to use for all the years in BPC system. And we have to define what is the level. This is the month, this is the quarter, and this is the year. And the definition of these things will be very important, because background, so many programs are running based on these properties. We cannot edit these values at any cost. And month number, you need to specify what is the first month. If your April is your first month, the month number for April will become 1. So depending upon your accounting period, you can use the base period and month to define it as a first period. And period, January, February, March, like that. And then quarters, Q1, Q2, Q3, and total. And this time ID is used when we are working in EPM formulas in the reporting section. These time IDs will be very, very helpful. So we have to maintain the time ID in the system defined format. First 4 digits will be your year, next 2 digits will be month number, and last 2 digits will always be 0. Like that 2006-01 represents January, 02 represents February. Like this we have to keep on till the month ends, and then year in which it is representing. This year property will be linked to your category dimension, which we have seen, the year property. So for that purpose we need to maintain the year value also, and we can see it in the hierarchical view as well. Year, quarter, and then month wise. If you want ID and description, ID and description. So like this you have to maintain the time dimension. So till now whatever we have defined is the type of dimension prefixed by SAP system. Apart from the predefined dimensions, there might be additional requirements like cost center, profit center, region, and sometimes some people will use unit of measurement. So there are lots of other dimensions when we are working in planning that might be required in order to know those details also when we are doing the planning. So how to capture those? We cannot fit into any of the type of dimension. Those things will be creating it as a user defined dimensions. So user defined dimensions, you can create any number. System will automatically create the number. Like if you see here, I have created product, region, cost center. If you create another dimension, it will be called as U4. So what is meant by user defined dimension? When you create a user defined dimension, system will not throw up any of the mandatory properties. The property maintenance is as per your requirement. You can create properties, or you don't require any properties also, it is okay. Only scaling will be created as a mandatory property. So other things depending upon your requirement you can maintain. All the user defined dimensions which is required at your planning level will be maintained in order to support your planning related requirements other than the dimensions which is specified by BPC system. So that is where the type of dimension is very useful in order to bring certain mandatory properties and assignments, and if there is any additional things you require for planning purposes or consolidation purposes, you create them as a user defined dimensions and use it in your modeling when you are doing the planning. So till now whatever I have explained using the existing dimensions, or you can copy the existing dimensions with the same type. But if I want to create a new one, I don't want the copy of anything, or I don't want to use the existing one, I can create a new one. Go to new. Okay. So when I'm creating new, I can select which type of dimension it is, whether it is account type dimension, category type, audit type, entity, group, intercompany, all the types are available. If it is not belonging to any of the type, you can define it as user defined and you can use it freely without any restrictions. Suppose if I am creating it as account type dimension, I'll just put create button. Okay, coming to questions, Mitesh is having a question. Do BPC has drop down when setting up this parameter? I did not get you, Mitesh. What is drop down for setting the parameters? Ganesh is having a question. Dimensions which you are explaining now are mandatory dimensions for BPC projects. Mandatory and non-mandatory project dimensions, we'll discuss it later, because for planning certain mandatory, for consolidation certain other dimensions are mandatory. At first we are discussing what is the dimensions that are available. After that, when we go on to the model section, we will discuss what is the mandatory at planning level, what is the mandatory at consolidation level separately. Shekhar is having a question. Can we have time dimension based on example K4? No, Shekhar, we will be maintaining time in the time provided format by BPC system. So fiscal year period variant, what you are creating is your for operational level, but when it comes to consolidation or planning, it will be at only 1 year you will be using. So like your operational system, you will not be having different fiscal year variants. It will be only one period, either April to May, April to March, or Jan to December, or whatever is your first period to last period you have to maintain. Mitesh is having another question. I see same type is used for two different dimensions, account type A, but inside property is different. Yeah, as I said, Mitesh, so when we are discussing the other things, we will able to know the other type of dimensions, how it is useful. So Shekhar, I hope I have answered your question with respect to fiscal year variant. Okay, so once I created account dimension, if you see here, account type and rate type property have automatically came along with the scaling. So other dimension properties which are required, I can add it going to the structure of the dimension. If you click on add, there are something required properties for consolidation, required properties for ownership. If you want required properties for consolidation, you can activate this. Automatically it will show what is the property required for consolidation, and you can save. Okay, so I'm going back to the members. So now I have created account type dimension. So it created account type and rate type, which is the mandatory properties for planning or consolidation. It has given those parameters. Similarly, I can create it as a user defined dimension. So I'll just put test. Okay, I'm creating this as a user defined dimension. So once you create it as a user defined dimension, if you see here test, it is showing only scaling, which is a mandatory property by BPC for any of the dimension. Apart from that, it is not showing anything. You can define any of the dimension. If you see here, the previously you are seeing add dimension required for consolidation, for ownership, it is showing separately. But here it is freely definable, and you can add any of the properties or any of the hierarchies according to your requirement. And if you see here, automatically system is giving U4, that is the next number, sequence number it will be giving. So depending upon your requirement, you can add any of the user defined dimensions which is required. Mitesh, you are talking about property value maintenance drop down. See, property value maintenance you are maintaining. How the system will provide a drop down here? Because these are your maintained values. How the system knows this is the drop down value I need to provide? System doesn't know. You have to maintain the values. So there is no option of drop down at all. Okay, like this system will create U1, U2, and latest one is U4. And you can delete the dimensions directly from here. And you can go and edit the members, either double click or go to edit members section and do the editing. You can go to the structure from here, or if you want directly from here, you can select, go to edit structure. From here also you can go to the edit structure. And here also, if there is any process required, you can directly do it from here, or you can go inside and do save and process. Suppose if I am putting 222. I'm just saving it. I'm not processing it. I can do the processing directly from here, or inside I can go and do the save and process. Both the options are possible. Since we have seen the earlier option previously, I am doing from processing directly from here. Do you want to take the environment offline? Select it as no. Account type I have not maintained, so it is throwing up error. So I can come and process from here. PS, I did not get your questions. Why we need these dimensions? See, dimensions are master data. So why we need it? I did not get your question at all. So if you want to work in FI, why we need a chart of account means it is a master data. Unless there is a master data, you cannot perform anything. So why we need a company code is, unless you know which company code you are working, you cannot do anything. So it's a master data. It is a requirement. And I'm not sure on exactly what your question is. Okay. Now, as I said, there is something called referential integrity. Now go to the account dimension. Go to the structure of the dimension. There is something called referential integrity. What is meant by referential integrity? If you see here the information button, the value of the property rate type can be checked against the member of the dimension called account A. That means I am saying referential integrity for rate type property referentially integrated with R_account dimension. What it refers to is I have a rate type property here. So whatever the value I am putting here, this should be a valid member in R_account, which is referentially integrated to this dimension. So if I go to R_account, I have average, closing, and historical. So if I am using any other thing in the account dimension rate type property, say I am putting COL, yes, and just putting it. Now you try to save and process, it will throw up an error because of referential integrity failure. Now see invalid value rate type, because whatever you are putting here in the rate type property should be a valid member in R_account dimension. How the system is identifying? Based on the structure you are maintaining. In the referential integrity column. Why this is mandatory? Because when you are doing the currency conversion, you are doing the currency conversion based on the rate types you are maintaining in R_account, where you are maintaining the exchange rates. So if that exchange rate is different from what you are maintaining in your account master, then the linking cannot be done. That is why SAP has provided that referential integrity in order to work on the currency conversions and different concepts. So that is why referential integrity is very, very important. And you have to maintain the referential integrity values also properly, then only you can able to process the dimensions. I think I have not changed it. Similarly, we have another referential integrity dimension called entity. So why entity has input currency as referential integrity? That means whatever you are maintaining in the currency property, this currency property value should be a valid member in input currency dimension. Why we are linking it to input currency? Previously when we discussed, whatever values you are putting in input currency, only those values your company can do the planning or consolidation. So if you are not having anything in the input currency level, the same thing cannot be maintained in the entity level because you cannot do the planning at that currency level. That is why in order to showcase that relationship, SAP is maintaining the referential integrity here. Now we have discussed we can copy the existing dimension and we can create the new one according to your requirement, or you can modify the existing one, or we can create the new one. We have created the new one. Sometimes if you are creating new ones like account and entity, what is the problem is you have to maintain the referential integrity manually. Now if you go inside, go to the structure, see the referential integrity is not maintained if you are creating it as a new one. I have created ACC_Jan_2015 through new option, not through copy option. If I have used the copy option, the referential integrity is already maintained by SAP according to the requirement. If I am not copying, if I am creating it as a new for certain type of referential integrity dimensions like account, entity, category, you need to specifically maintain the referential integrity in order to work in the BPC system for this particular dimension. So now go here, I am referentially integrating with R_account. So this step becomes manual step when you create a new dimension from the new section wherever referential integrity is involved. Other things it doesn't matter because there is no referential integrity at all. Now for category also, if you see it is referentially integrating with time. So in time dimension, what is the property? It is year property it is referring to. Now if you go to time dimension, there is property called year. So system will check whatever year you are maintaining, the same will be taken into the year property in the category dimension. Now if you go to this dimension, there is no referential integrity. So system has provided only certain dimensions with referential integrity property. Those needs to be mandatorily maintained in the BPC system when you are creating new ones. When you are copying it, system will automatically take care about that because you are copying the original structure as it is. But if you are creating a new one, you have to maintain it explicitly. So this is with respect to the different dimensionalities we can do it in BPC system and what each type of dimension does, and this is the dimensions which we have discussed is towards planning purposes. When we discuss on the consolidation part, we will discuss the other consolidation related activities. So in our next class we will discuss how to create a model and how to assign the dimensions and what are all the mandatory dimensions, and then we can discuss on the web reporting part, how the web reporting will look like, how to create workspaces and all in our next class. So till that time it will be the basics till next class. So if you start practicing on your own now itself, it will be very helpful because we are having weekend classes. So from first, second class itself will be going into the subject directly. Sandeep is having a question. Oh, sorry. Rajesh is having a question. Referring to question on account type drop-down, we can prepare referential integrity list as well as to validate. I did not get your question, Rajiv. Referential integrity is mainly because there are certain system-defined processes and certain defined business rules are available which takes the cognizance of the referential integrity dimensions. Unless those are maintained properly, your business rules towards currency conversion transformations will not work properly. That is why SAP suggests to maintain the referential integrity suggested by SAP. You should not do any of your own referential integrities. It is suggested by SAP only should be taken into consideration. And Sandeep is having a question, what is the maximum length allowed for dimension? I did not get what is your question. For ID it is 32 characters. What is the length of the dimension? I did not get your point at all. Mitesh is having a question, can we have multiple references for different fields? As I said, Mitesh, this is system requirement. We can have the property defined by SAP system. You cannot define the referential integrity. Only SAP can define the referential integrity. You can choose only the dimension name, but the property is defined by SAP. So how can you define multiple properties when the system itself has defined the property value? You can choose only the dimensionality which you can refer to this property value, but not the multiple properties. And as I said, whatever system provided, don't try to change anything because it will have a lot of complications when you are working on the business rules, logics. It will create a lot of problems which you cannot identify what is the error. Yeah, Rajiv, you are asking also same question. So when I talk about referential integrity, as I clearly said, SAP has predefined dimensions with referential integrity. Only those things needs to be considered. Other things, system will not provide that option at all. And Salahuddin is asking question, for a new implementation perspective, I wanted to understand during the blueprint phase. I don't understand, Salahuddin, what is your point, but see, for BPC, as we discussed in our demo class also, it is more towards defining the processes in BPC system and understanding the each process how it works. Because unlike your ECC transaction systems, the projects will not be standardized. It will be based on the client requirement. Everything will keep on changing. So you cannot isolate like your transaction systems. The learning for the BPC system is based on each topic wise. Each topic wise example we'll discuss, and we'll discuss the possibilities and non-possibilities, and we'll discuss how it will support in the client related perspective. In that way only the analytical product training will happen. Regarding your another question, Salahuddin, what kind of information I need to gather from business? See, we are in the initial classes itself. So after discussing the entire BPC related concepts and all, then you yourself will be able to understand what questions it will come and what questions I can ask the client in order to get this information. So in the initial stage you cannot able to decide anything. See, after learning certain things, okay, in order to get this, I need to ask this question to the client. All those things you will be gaining through experience only, you will be getting after learning the BPC concept. I think I am clear on your question, Salahuddin. Next question is from Ganesh. What may be the difference between BW InfoCube and BPC model? See, there is no difference between BW InfoCube and BPC model. Only thing is BPC is sitting on top of your BW system. In order to differentiate your normal BW cube with BPC cube, they are giving a different name nomenclature, and it will be created directly from the front end, not from the back end like your BW system. Yeah. As I said, Ganesh, so whatever BPC we are working, everywhere the configuration is required. In my first section itself, I said whatever we are doing the configurations, it will be under planning and consolidation administration section, which is nothing but our configuration screen. Okay, I think Salahuddin, I think I have answered your question. Yeah, tell me, Salah. Any other questions from anyone? Uh, exactly, I don't know, Salahuddin, embedded BPC architecture and standard BPC architecture. As far as I know, BPC is having two things. One is if you are going for 10.1, the classic architecture and unified architecture. Classic architecture is nothing but 10.0, and unified architecture is combination with HANA with the BWIP, that is 10.1, which is only used for planning purposes, not for consolidation. So I am not sure on what is embedded BPC and standard architecture, but unified and classic is this one. We are going to learn BPC 10, which is covering both planning as well as consolidation. Shekhar is having a question from BW perspective. Do we have standard contents for BPC that needs to be installed in BW side? No, Shekhar. From BPC perspective, whatever we are creating from the front end automatically created from the back end as a BW cube. So from standard content perspective, we are nowhere taking the BW standard content at all. Once the data is available in the BW cubes from your ECC system, which is already available in your standard content using data sources, that data sources value only we are taking into BPC system. So there is no standard content for BPC directly. I am not sure on what this site is referring to. Frankly speaking, I have not gone through what you have told me. I have to look into that. It might be just a naming convention what they are giving. Yeah, implement standard and embedded SAP BPC is nothing but they are putting what you call standard content, I think. These are embedded, here it referring to embedded means when we are creating model, we are referring to the standard SAP structure. If you don't want to use standard structures and if you want to do it on your own, then you can go for embedded system, embedded architecture, where you have to define from each of the things the relationship and everything from the scratch till the end you have to define. But I have not seen any person going for that kind of implementation till now. We are using the standard SAP practice where the relationships are maintained in the standard SAP by BPC system, and we are utilizing the standard things. If you are going for that kind of custom thing from scratch till end, you have to create everything on your own, including the business rule logics, maintenance of parameters, everything you need to do it from scratch. Based on the glance what I have seen from your information which you provided, it seems like that, but I have not seen anybody Even SAP is giving training on that. Okay, any other questions? Okay, then we can wrap up the session for today, and we'll meet in our next week class. Thank you everyone.